viewers, my name's Kara. About a week or so ago, I was going through my Pagan Perspective videos on the collab and adding them to my playlist on this channel of Pagan Perspective Tuesdays with Cute Witch 772. And as I was doing that, occasionally I looked through the comments. While I was doing this, I found a comment from 2 years ago on one of my Pagan Perspective videos that basically, I don't even remember what video it was on. It was not about the video itself. But basically this person was saying that they had never really been interested in the occult or in paganism or witchcraft or anything, but they were surfing around on the internet one day, came across a bunch of YouTube videos, and then ended up finding my videos and the Pagan Perspective, and they loved what they saw and everything like that. And so their question for me was, because before they had found my videos and our channel's videos, the collab, they had been looking at a bunch of other occult practitioners' videos on YouTube, and it was a lot of the doom and gloom kind of folks, I guess. I actually don't know who they were talking about. They thought I might know, but I don't watch a lot of those people, so I honestly don't know who they were referring to. But they were talking about people who very much present themselves as being cooler than everyone else and, you know, deep, dark, and terrifying and mystifying and all of this. And in comparison to those people, they said that I seemed so different that they could not simply discount what I was saying. Which is awesome to hear. Thank you for saying that. I really appreciate that people take the time to listen and watch and enjoy what I have to say and what I present to everyone. But basically this made this person question whether I'm really this positive and upbeat. You know, I seemed to be so different than everyone else, they said, and wanted to know, am I really this positive and happy all the time outside of making videos? And I'll put a little bit of the text from the comment in the description of this video so you can see some of the original wording. I won't put the whole thing because I don't think it's all relevant to what I'm addressing. But some of it, you know, they said, now I understand putting your best foot forward and, you know, wanting to make a video when you're in a positive mood and things like that. But their question was really just, am I really that positive for the most part outside of putting on a good presentation? Like, in my life, am I that positive and upbeat? And if so, how did I get interested in and involved in paganism and witchcraft? Because in their experience, so many of the people that they've met who are interested in these areas seem kind of messed up. And, you know, they seem like they've been through a lot. They've got some deep, dark, mystifying shit going on, you know? And so they were just wondering about all this and how did this happen? And recognizing that, of course, it's stereotypical to assume that everyone in this realm of community automatically has issues or is broken somehow, yada yada. But I thought this was such an interesting question, and I commented back to them, you know, 2 years later, saying, I'm sorry that it took so long to reply to this, but I might actually talk about this on my channel pretty soon. So here I am, pretty soon, recording this video. Sorry for that long exposition and introduction to get you here, but I just thought this was such an interesting thing and so timely and relevant, because as you all know, if you watch this personal channel, I have started recently doing more videos talking about the issues that I experience, and sometimes doing videos during those times when I'm not in a good mood, when I'm not full of positive energy. I've been doing some videos in those down times where I used to not. But let me back up. First question, am I always this positive and happy and upbeat outside of making videos? Well, that question is yes and no. What I do in my videos is not an act. This is really how I present myself in my everyday life. You know, I'm not up here preaching things at people on the internet like, do things like this and say things like this and this is how I believe we should act and blah, 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 blah. And then I turn off the camera and go, like, destroy the world. Like, no. The way that I present and the things that I talk about in my videos is how I actually live my life, okay? So that part, that's yes. I really am that positive and that upbeat and this diplomatic. Diplomatic is a word that people have used for me a lot. And the universality of my belief and everything like that, that follows into my entire life. That is me. That is who I am. However, they were also right when they said, when they mentioned putting your best foot forward and putting on a good presentation, things like that. So that's where the no part comes in, is that I am not constantly 100% of the time happy and upbeat and a bundle of sunshine. I would say maybe 80-ish% of the time. I don't know, I'd have to ask the people who spend a lot of time with me. And obviously at times, you know, there are months or a year or so where I have more of the down stuff than the rest. But yeah, there's not 100% of the time that I'm happy, upbeat, and wonderful, right? I have horrible days, and some of those horrible but not so horrible that I can still function days, I have started doing videos on those days, such as a somewhat recent video that I titled "I don't want to do this, but here I am anyway," was about when I just really don't want to make a video. Like, I don't want to do anything, and, you know, I feel horrible on those days, and I feel like, you know, what am I doing? Like, this is something I love to do. Why do I not want to do something I love to do? Because sometimes I have those horrible days where I really don't even want to do the things that normally bring me joy. So, yeah, that exists. So am I this happy and upbeat and positive in my real life outside of videos? Yes. Am I always consistently, constantly that way? No. And that's just reality. And I used to not want to show that stuff in videos, but lately it's been so much more prevalent, and I'm trying to do this video thing and everything that I do online full time, so I kind of have more of a responsibility to my schedule where I'm realizing that, you know, I can't really just say, I don't want to do this because my energy is not good enough. I have to do this work because this is my work, right? And I can still do what I want. I can still do what I want with it when I want. I can fudge it a little bit, but it's really trying to keep myself to a schedule and not go off the rails on that. And so the second part of this person's question was, if I am this happy outside of videos in my real life, how the heck did I get involved or interested in paganism, witchcraft, the occult, blah, 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 blah. And that is an interesting question. I definitely have videos where I've talked about how I became, you know, how I started studying Wicca back when, like one of my very early videos, very old walkie-talkie video, old technology, not great filming, about finding Wicca. I talked about how I came to find Wicca and start studying Wicca. So you've heard me tell stories like that. But let's take it back, right? So today, these days, like I said, I've been dealing with a lot more anxiety and depression, and I've been talking about that gradually more and more, and I've done some videos from that perspective. However, when I began my path over a decade ago, I was not struggling with those issues. So this is not something that, oh, I've always had these issues and I've just never talked about it, and I came to the path because of it, and now I'm talking about it. I did not have these issues and life experiences when I began this path. And some people at that age that I was are already dealing with these issues, and that is horribly sad to me. And I have several much younger friends who are in middle school and high school who are already getting treatment and being medicated for severe depression, anxiety, things like that. And so I understand that for some people, even starting that young, that can be the case, that things like this might lead them to look at different types of belief systems. For me, it was not part of my anxiety and depression because I did not have those things then. I don't know, okay, I'm not a medical specialist, I'm not a psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever. So I don't know whether or not these kinds of things are things that are like, oh, well, really, they've always been with you, but maybe you just didn't have the symptoms. I don't know if that applies. All I can tell you is that I did not deal with these issues at that time. So when I was like 10, 11, 12 years old, I did not have anxiety. I was a very shy kid. As a little kid, I was shy. But I sort of gradually got out of that pretty easily, and I wasn't too bad off, and I didn't have anxiety. I didn't have social anxieties. I didn't have anxieties about the world. I didn't have existential crises when I was 10, 11, and 12, and I'm grateful for that. And because I know that some people do suffer from that, or deal with that, I want to say, at that age. And I didn't. And I did not have depression as I experience it now. Or at all, in my opinion. Looking back, I don't think I had any of those types of things. So that's when I started, and when I started getting into this kind of stuff and studying it, it was because I had been raised in another religion, my family's religion, Catholicism, that just never really sat right with me, and I respected it, and I thought a lot of things were cool about it. You know, I love Gothic architecture, so I love like the big, tall, open spaces of Catholic churches, how they used to be. Now they're actually becoming more universally designed, which is great because it's super helpful for people with differing needs who want to access those buildings. So I love that. But I do love the old, very Gothic cathedral type style. I love old churches. I love, just learning about the history of the church and things like that. The good things and the bad things, because I like studying religion, right? So, and I was being raised in it, so I wanted to understand it, but I just didn't understand a lot of it, and not a lot of it made sense to me. So I just always had questions about it that people didn't want to answer or didn't want me to ask in the first place. They just didn't want me to ask questions. And so as time went by, I watched shows like Charmed, and then I found out that Wicca and witchcraft is not just something on TV, it's also actually a religion. It's actually a thing people believe, and that led me to start studying it and find books about it. And my mom is very metaphysically minded as well. She's a spiritualist Christian, and so she was into a lot of other things, meditation. We had friends who were into crystal healing, aromatherapy, energy work, stuff like this. So we were both exposed to those things. My mom also has a lot of connections with Native American folks and Native American spirituality, and so that was just kind of part of my childhood as well. And as I started learning about it from a pagan and witchcraft point of view, I started just expanding more and more of what I learned, and it just felt right to me. It was finally things that made sense to me. So my interest in it did not stem from dealing with any issues that I was seeking help for, other than feeling confused and not understanding the things that people were trying to tell me. But it was not anxiety and depression at that time. So that's when I got into it. So as I replied back to this person, I'm very grateful that I was already years and years into my path at the time that I started experiencing issues with anxiety and depression, because I think that my path and having a pretty solid handle on the basics of what I believe and who I am and where my path work lies has really helped me deal with my anxiety and depression, because I can use my path and the things that I do to help myself heal and help myself deal with those things on a day-to-day basis, and then also help other people who are going through similar things. So yeah, I started my path when I was about 10, 11, 12 years old. I celebrated my first Sabbath with other people when I was 13 in the spring of 2004, and then I did not start experiencing anxiety and depression as I know them now until college. Like, in and around college situations, I went through a lot of emotional ups and downs, upheaval stuff, and that's when I started seeing a counselor. And my counselor is the person who began to refer to my situation as anxiety and depression. And it's been around ever since, I am also very grateful. There's kind of a lot of things that come up with this topic that I've heard a lot of people talking about recently, and I think someone actually asked it of Pagan Perspective, so we might be talking about it on Pagan Perspective soon, so I won't go too deep into it. But I've heard multiple people talk to me about seeing a counselor or seeing a therapist, and the one that they have is not very friendly to paganism, and maybe even believes that our path is detrimental to their mental health. And that obviously bothers me a lot, because that's not the case. These things can be very helpful for people, and I am grateful that the counselor that I had through my college was actually really into Buddhist practices, was not a practicing Buddhist himself, but, could appreciate the kinds of meditative aspects and other kinds of principles of Buddhism that are really helpful for people in a counseling setting. So I was able to relate to him through that, and he was able to understand, and he was very professional, and very much listened to me and what I needed and what I felt helped me, which is awesome. And whenever I hear people now telling me that their counselors and therapists are not helpful about their practice. You know, do not accept their personal practice as a way to incorporate that into their mental health well-being and into their, you know, their plan for keeping themselves balanced or whatever. That, it sounds really like cheesy and stupid, and like it's not going to do anything for me to say this, but it makes me sad. Like, that's the only emotion that I can think of when it frustrates me, it bothers me, but it also just makes me sad, and I'd like to do something about that. So that's something that I care a lot about. I don't really know at the moment, aside from, you know, seeking to become a counselor myself, which I may do one day. That's something that I've always wanted to do. And I know that's ironic too, that all the people who really want to be into psychology and stuff like have psychological problems, and like people who want to be counselors have anxiety and depression and need to see counselors, you know, whatever. But definitely, there are counselors and therapists out there who are people who recognize that this kind of path work, and anywhere in the realm of paganism and witchcraft and whatever, there are people who recognize that those things can be helpful for you and that they're not automatically horrible and causing your mental health issues. So, anyway, that was kind of a tangent. And someone else recently just messaged me, and I haven't messaged them back yet, talking about a similar issue and talking about how their friends always kind of just pity them if they post something on Facebook. Like, I was talking about this recently, where I don't really post about it on my personal Facebook because people just pity me, and they think that when I'm talking about it, that's the only time I'm dealing with the issue. So then they're like, oh, I'll take you out to dinner and I'll make it better right now, and then you'll be fine, right? Because the rest of the time I seem fine because I'm not talking about it constantly. That doesn't mean that it's not something I don't deal with on a daily basis. And most of the people I know deal with these things on a daily basis, but we don't talk about them. And we seem like super happy, upbeat, wonderful people. Because we are. Because anxiety and depression are not who we are. They're a part of us, and it's something that we live with, but they are not the defining factor of who we are. We are happy, positive, cool people. I like to think we're pretty cool, you know. But so this other person messaged me and said, like, yeah, my friends see me smiling and functioning and going to work and like living in the world, so they don't believe that I have depression, because they have this view that if you have depression, you don't do anything or whatever, you know. So yeah, those are other things that I might talk about separately in other videos. I don't know. I'll come up with other concise topics to talk about those. But yeah, so to answer this person's question, no, yes, all the things. No, I'm not like that 100% of the time. I do deal with these issues now. Yes, I really am this positive and wonderful and hopeful, and, you know, I'm pretty optimistic, but I think I'm an optimist and also a realist. I don't know, I don't think of myself as a pessimist or as an idealist most of the time. I think of myself as an optimist and a realist. And the issues that I experience now in my life are not the things that got me interested in paganism and witchcraft to begin with, because I didn't have those things a decade ago. But by the time those things entered my life, I was already well on my path, and I'm glad of that, because my path is something that can really help me when I let it. Can help me do the work to heal myself and bring myself back to center, back to balance, back to grounding, and really deal with my day-to-day life. So yeah, thanks for listening to the long and rambly discussion. I hope that some of you put it on in the background while you were doing chores around your house or working on a project, because I know you guys like to do that. So thanks very much, and I will see you next time. Until then, don't forget to be awesome, blessed be, and goodbye.